Rift of Nations, session 34, the second to last session of the entire campaign. The penultimate session was just now, and we are leading right into the final battle. So, here's how this is going to... in general, there was no combats in this session. There was a skill challenge that went really wrong for them. For me, it's great. I get more ammo for the season finale. But this is how I was going to do it, of what I thought was going to happen, and I'll show you my layout and then some curveballs along the way. So let's just go for it, y'all. So pre-session, I wanted to talk to him about like some things going on. Set the stage, like in a meta way, set the stage for what's going on. And then this never ended up happening, but I had a little meeting just in case if they ever went into the Nightmare Plane for some things in a non-combat way. I was going to throw this on them. They never went there though, so they avoided that, which actually was a good encounter, or at least a knowledgeable one. But anyway, so then now this is kind of what I broke up the session into different phases. They are preparing to go to the Desert Nation, to go to the Dream Temple to fight the Architect of Nightmare, the big final situation. They just learned about all this. Everything's been leading to this, and here it comes, right? So I broke it up into different phases, right? So the Wanderers campsite, they just came back from the other battle they had last session, the big huge battle from last session, craziest fight ever. So there's some stuff to go on. I'll get into this in a second. And then after that, they're going to go to the Mountain Nation. I knew that they were going to do that. They said they need to do that. That's something they obviously need to do. They're going to go to the Mountain Nation and release the Black Dragon, so that all 5 dragons have been released. They can now work together again because the 5 of them are all in the same team. The Nightmare Dragon has been corrupted. They need to release him and free him from this corruption, etc. So they knew they were going to do that, and he's in the Mountain Nation, so they had to go there. Then there's some stuff here. And then after the Black Dragon's released, some stuff happens. I'm breaking this up into just like chunked session, like stages of what I thought was going to happen. And of course they could have jumped around, but there you go. And then the Tech Nation of Aldor, if they went back to the Tech Nation, and they ended up doing that, I had, just in case they went back there, here's some stuff there for them. And then final preparations and any sort of things going on. I did not end up using this. I did not end up having this happen. So I'm going to highlight this right now so I don't forget this. Oh my god, I can't do it. I'm going to highlight this, and I'm going to turn this red because that did not happen. So I want to make sure that I don't, whenever I go through this and prep for the session final right here. Oh, I do this on a live stream. So you can check out on the main channel. I have campaign prep live streams where I prep this campaign. So check that out if you want. But anyway, then that was going to be the end of the session, because on the way to the Desert Nation was where I was going to wrap everything up. So one thing I did, every time you see a Dream Encounters thing, all 5 of my players, here we go, all 5 of my players have a fear. And the Architect of Nightmare, the big final BBEG boss, he plays on your fears and uses them against you, etc., right? So with all of this, there's... I wanted to give everyone a chance, one, to set the tone for what their fear is and make sure that they know, and they all know what their greatest fear is, and that's something that I've trickled in throughout the entire campaign. But I really wanted them to see that it's not over. Just like this fear is still there, and give them a final chance to beat their fear, because it's not something that they've all dove into of really trying to face their fears. It's been a very big thing. I've told them they know that fear is causing the enemy to be more powerful, and they haven't done any work to fight their fears, right? So it's been I'm holding them accountable to the mechanics of this world and giving them one final chance to do it. And each person, so Clara is the Dream Champion, but she's afraid, and I did this in the live stream. I reached out to her and I texted her. I said, hey, like, what's Clara's biggest fear? And she said to let down the dream, she's the chosen one, she's the Dream Champion, to let them down. The people that chose her, the Quarry, these dreamer people, there's the Nightmare Lavishtar, and there's the Dreamer Quarry, like these ethereal dream races that are in this other plane of existence that are kind of pulling the streams of dreams, pulling the streams of nightmare, back and forth, tug of war type thing. They have chosen her as their champion, and she doesn't want to let them down. But she's never reached out to them to talk. And I literally texted her, talked to her back and forth in real life. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to reach out to them. And I was trying to get her to do that because I wanted her to reach out to them because they have a lot of information. But she never did. And then she said she would. But then this session, She never did. So her nightmare, each of the 5 players have a greatest fear, and I was giving them each a nightmare to try and face that fear and be able to do something with it. And I reached out to Clara, and she had a dream where her people told her that you are a failure. You are a failure. And let me switch back to this so you can see what I'm talking about. They said you are a failure, and she just was like, it's kind of stunned by it, like what? And then they left. But the quarry cannot reach out to her. I have made it lore in the game, and they know that the quarry cannot reach out and act on the material plane. She has to reach out to them, and she hasn't yet. And this was them reaching out to her, which is impossible, which is why it's a nightmare. You see how I'm going with this? And she just let that go and let that happen, and she never reached out to him. I really thought this was going to make her reach out to him even more, but then she never did, so she'll never know. And that's gonna come into play in the final session here. So anyway, then I talked about more Dream Crystal stuff. Talked about just kind of setting the stage for like mechanics and thoughts about kind of letting me think about what's about to come. And then Odin had his greatest fear, which is attacking everybody. So he shifted into a werewolf. So at the table, I didn't tell anyone else this. At the table, I had Odin. I was like, you lose control. And so I ran it like a normal dungeon master, but no matter what they rolled, the roll didn't matter. And it started to get weird because I was like, make a wisdom save. And he rolled a 16, which normally prevents him he's a werewolf and he can shift into werewolf form. And he made a 16, which normally would have saved, but it failed. And he shifted and he starts attacking his friends. And I was like, what are y'all doing? And I ran it off like it was real. And the players were like, I cast hold person. And I had to make a spell check. And he got like a 26. And I was like, it fails. It doesn't work. And the player at the table was like, what? Why is it not working? I was like, the wind, he breaks through, and so everything was happening. They all started to get weird at a meta level. They're like, what's happening right now? Which is where I wanted them to be. It was purposefully like a weird dream scene, which I was totally fine with them being in that headspace. And then Odin goes, and I was like, you attack Clara, you rip her down the center, and she's knocked unconscious. You kill Clara on the spot. What are y'all doing? And they're like, what? And so I'm just running it real fast paced in their face, and then out of nowhere, after Clara then wakes up and turns into a lichen and attacks Darius, and everybody's attacking each other, and then they all wake up, and it was all a nightmare. So, and then I ran these dream encounters off for each player. Each player had a little moment of this dream encounter. Q had a moment with a dream encounter where everyone's drowning, like the waters are rushing in, and water's rising, and then everyone's kind of scrambling, and he's like, I was like, what do you do, Q? And he's like, I want to go find the source of the water and stop it. I was like, oh dang, he's facing his fears. And I got chills. I was like, okay, let's go. And so his fear is water. His fear is drowning. And throughout the campaign, he's made big strides towards it. So he's already been really close to breaking through this fear. And he runs out into the water. So I was going to have him make a check for it. I was like, all right, you're trudging through the water. It's going to be hard to run through this. He's like, I have boots of water walking. He had a magic item that I did not remember, but he has. And so I was like, you start trudging through the water and you rise up to start running on top of the water. Running through it, you see a huge orb of water that's flowing out. He's like, I want to jump up and freaking punch it. I was like, of course, this is what a barbarian Q would do. I was like, give me an attack roll. And I'm just looking for, it's like a check of some kind. He rolled over 20. I was like, okay, here we go. You smash the water, it explodes, and everyone wakes up. And that was him beating his fear. So Q, in the final fight, will not have any negative ramifications of his fear, because he has beat and fought his fear. Because in the final fight, each player is going to have a fear that they have to overcome, and until they overcome it, everyone has a negative effect on them. So I have 5 players. I have 5 different negative effects that are going to be affecting all of them until they fight their fear or beat their fear. Now, they could push through all of that and still win the fight. They could. It'd be really hard, though. So I'm wondering if they're going to catch on to that. But now Q has beat his fear. So that was super interesting. Super cool. And then Clara never talked to the quarry. She never did. So that's really funny that never happened. Went through everything. They went to the Mountain Nation. Ivar also never saved his brother. That's huge. That is absolutely massive. I'm turning this red, too. And I'm going to turn this red because Clara never went and talked to her people. And Ivar never went and saved his brother. He has everything in his power to be able to save his brother. They were in the Mountain Nation, and he did not save his brother. He did not save his brother. So that's going to come and bite him in the ass for sure. And then Ivar's nightmare was everyone around him dying, and he had that dream right before his brother. So all his friends around him were dying from this rot, this disease that he's supposed to be able to cure, and he can, but he hasn't, and he hasn't done it, and he didn't do it for his brother, who's been sick the entire campaign from this sickness. So that was really interesting. And then they go to release the dragon, and this was a skill challenge. There was a dragon sealed behind a mountain's ruined door, cavern, rock wall, whatever, and they had to free the dragon. But when they freed them, this is a nightmare dragon, and it is corrupted. It is the black dragon who's been corrupted and turned into a nightmare dragon, and they need to release the dragon and save and cleanse the nightmare. It was a really cool skill challenge. How I ran the skill challenge was basically they needed 7 successes before infinite amount of failures. You are trying to get the 7 successes as quickly and efficiently as you can and accumulate as little failures along the way as possible. And it worked out beautifully and great. So I'm actually going to make a note right now to do a video on this on the main channel. Skill challenge X failure video, because I do think it ran off really well, and it did exactly what I want, because this is the penultimate campaign, or the penultimate session. So every failure gave me an extra bonus to give to the nightmare, the architect of nightmare, that I was going to give him another thing based on their failures, right? So if they had gone in and killed it, less mechanics. Now that they didn't, more mechanics. The final fight is now harder because of the failures in this skill challenge. Because as they're trying to fight this nightmare is leaking out into the world. They've released this nightmare into the world, and it is now in the world. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that whole thing plays out. But there's Ivar, and there's going to be all that. They released the Nightmare Dragon. The first round, they accumulated 3 failures and 0 successes. And then the next round, their rolls started to get better. Nobody rolled higher than a 12 the whole time, the first round. But then the second and third round, they did much better. And then basically how the whole thing went down, there were these nightmare creatures crawling on the dragon. They were trying to get him off. Ivar was trying to, just like Q jumped into the white dragon's body, Ivar was trying to jump into the nightmare dragon's body to try and free him, and in the same way. So that was a beautiful synergy between all of that. And he was trying to, and then everybody's getting the creatures off of him, and then Q tried to jump into the nightmare dragon, which is a beautiful, awesome, really cool thought, because he jumped into the white dragon. So he's like, I'm going to jump into the nightmare dragon, but it's like an evil version. He's like, but I don't want to jump in there. I want to just hold it open for Ivar to jump in there. And I was like, oh my gosh, what a perfect teammate right there. What a perfect teammate, which I'm going to make a note right now on my session 35 finale is right before the session, give Q inspiration. Boom, 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 bop. Got it. Done. Love it. Yeah, that's how the whole thing went. They were able to, Ivar was able to jump into the dragon, free him in a similar way to how Q did, very poetically, and that was awesome. Then they came back. The dragons met. The dragons went to go take care of the Demigorgon that's been released unto the world, so that takes care of that problem. And this is also me as a dungeon master making sure everything gets wrapped up and put a nice pretty bow on it, because we're trying to end the campaign and end it with a good feeling that they've actually accomplished all these things, and there is no like stone left unturned, etc. And then they went back to the Tech Nation because they remembered about a book that they had to go check in on and learn some information from. They learned some information on that book, which I'm now making a note on to tell info on Nightmare book group, right? So I learned some information there. That's a little bit of a lore dump to kind of help me set the stage for that final fight so that they know what they're getting into a little bit. And then final preparations, and I got to do Q's upgrades because Q got upgraded with some 2 of the nation's dream crystals, and they have all the dream crystals but 1 now. So super cool, super exciting to see how the rest of this campaign, or rest of this, the final session, next session, how it all goes down and what happens, because man, oh man, is that going to be one hell of a ride for a big finale. We got a lot of mechanics going into a big old fight, and it could go bad, and there definitely could be some deaths, and I'm interested to see what happens there. So yeah, stay tuned for that, and it'll be the final session of this Rift of Nations. So thank you for everyone who stayed along with me. If you want to check out all the old ones, you totally can, and kind of get up to date with everything, because I am eventually, and hopefully next time, going to stream some of these things and try and get some streamed action going here, so y'all can see the actual play instead of just having to hear me talk about it. But I try and do this in a little different way, so I hope you guys like it. Until next time, stay creative, think outside the box. Peace.